Would you be kind enough to pray with me, please? Creator, we give thanks for the opportunity to gather in your name. As we know that when two or more are gathered in your name, you are in the midst of us. And we ask that the meditation of my heart and the words of my mouth are acceptable in your sight, our rock and our redeemer. Well, it's that time of year again. As Rod Stewart famously sang in Maggie May, it's late September and I must really be back in school again. Thank you, Carl. Likewise, corollary to that is it's late September and it must be time for the annual stewardship campaign at Bloom. As Bloomers, John and I have talked sometimes that we're fortunate in terms of our stewardship campaign because we were Presbyterians for many years. And when you're a Presbyterian, you have to endure 3 Sundays of very long sermons for the stewardship season. Thank goodness this is the only one you're going to hear this week other than or this season. At this time of the year, the lectionary is often the parable of the widow's mite, or where Jesus declares that it's easier to pass through the eye of a needle than for a rich person to enter into heaven. Another favorite passage is the admonition eloquently expounded on by Rev. Kev last week, to render unto Caesar the things that are Caesar and the things unto God that are God's. I've had the honor of being the stewardship chair for the past 2 years with a lot of help from Megan Cassette and Jim Nixon. Each year we have attempted to set a theme for the campaign upon which our members may meditate about their 2017 contributions. 2 years ago it was community. Last year it was commitment. This year it's service. Each year churches at this time across the world ask their congregants to share with us their time, talent, and treasure. Bloom, as with most other churches, often puts the emphasis on treasure. The reason for this emphasis, of course, is to ensure that Bloom has sufficient funds to carry out our mission as outlined every week in our bulletin insert. Our mission as a liberal Protestant church is to provide a safe, spiritual place in which our members may grow in faith while following the tenets set forth in the Bible for navigating through life as a follower of Jesus. I know sometimes people wonder, and members wonder, why there are so many appeals for funds during the year. Our annual pledges, for which Bloom is usually grateful, cover just half of the operating budget. That leaves a very large gap to fill every year. We often talk about our faith challenge. The faith challenge is our deficit for the year, which must be met in order for us to end the year in the black. What's this have to do with service? To paraphrase one of my favorite book writers, it takes a church. Money alone will not sustain Bloom. It also takes your service. Not just that of a few leaders, but of the congregation as a whole. Each of us as to our abilities. Service is evident in both books of the Bible. From Moses serving the people of Israel as he brought them out of the land of Egypt, to the disciples serving Jesus' teachings by spreading the word in service to his teaching. When God called Moses to serve, his first reaction was, "Not me, Yahweh, I am unworthy." He did a great job serving the people of Israel, as did David, Ruth, and others from the Old Testament. Even Mary's washing of Jesus' feet was a service. While Jesus addresses that giving is important, we're asked to give only as we can. Kevin mentioned last week that 11 of 39 parables mentioned money. Jesus' emphasis is on serving his flock and asking his flock to serve by feeding others, clothing them, housing the poor, and this is paramount to his teaching and ministry. And while being treated as you would be, being treated as you wish you would be treated, as with the widow's mite, any amount of service offered to Bloom is appreciated. It does not matter how much you give financially to Bloom. The same is true for service. What matters is that you give. I believe that serving others is innate, and that there is a desire in each of us to serve. Service to others shows that we care about people, whether they be sick, homeless, or those who are not as fortunate as us. Many of us serve in other ways, including non-related church, not-for-profit organizations. Some of us volunteer their service to many service organizations and the Valley. The Wounded Warrior Project, the Desert AIDS Project, the Palm Springs Animal Shelter, and Dwell in the Desert, and many, many more. Other members offer their services to these organizations, and Bloomers serving other organizations in the Valley is what Bloom's Us Plus is about. And if you don't know about the Us Plus, you need to talk with John DiNapoli. Over each of our lives, we have offered service in one way or another to many organizations. It is my hope that some of your service time can be directed to Bloom. Bloom has always recognized that members come from different religious backgrounds. The structure in a congregational church is such that participation of its members is essential to the health, both spiritually and organizationally, of Bloom. It is the essence of Bloom's covenant of membership. Bill Davison shared with me last week at Sandwich Mondays that we are a congregational church, and pointed out that when the Mayflower landed, there were no bishops on board. It was all up to all to pitch in and to make a life, both physically and spiritually. This was the beginning of congregationalism.